This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Hero Academy podcast. I created this podcast for you if you are a first responder, police officer, fireman, nurse, military personnel. This podcast is for you. Let's get your stories out. They need to be heard by everyone, especially the good ones. Let's share those stories and create some positivity out there in the world. Enjoy this episode. Hello, fam, and welcome back to another episode of the Hero Academy podcast. If you are a frontline hero, police, fire, EMS, military, or medical professional, you are in the right place, and this show is for you. This week, I'd like to introduce you to our guest for episode number 10 of this podcast, Terri Brinston. Enjoy. I just want to say thank you for coming on. I have Miss Terri Brinston, author, entrepreneur, nurse, educator, teacher. The list goes on and on. Oh, writer. What else did I say? You know what? Rather than me go on and on and on, I'm just gonna let you tell your own story. So go ahead, Terri. Shoot.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. You left off. I'm a mother. I'm a Christian. I am an entrepreneur, and I am a survivor. And so those are definitely some attributes that I like to connect myself with. Absolutely. I am a new author, so I'm so excited because it's my first book. I have a lot, people have a lot of stories within them, and it's like, okay, when are you going to get them out? And so I'm just so excited that I was able to get my story out. I'll start with the fact that I am a survivor. I had COVID-19 in March. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. So during that time when I was infected with COVID, it was very new. And so they didn't really, as a medical professional, I'm a registered nurse, they really didn't know too much about it. And so, of course, I got it. And I was admitted to the hospital, which was extremely crazy. It just kind of seemed like, during that time, they didn't know what it was. It was like outbreak. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but, they had the military at the hospital and everybody's lined up outside in emergency. Well, anyway, it was just pretty traumatic. And when I was admitted into the hospital, my husband couldn't come in with me. And so I didn't see him for another 30 days after he dropped me off. Oh my goodness. I was in the hospital for about 30 days. And because I had double pneumonia and encephalitis, and I had a lot of symptoms. But anyway, they ended up putting me on the vent. So I was on the vent for 15 days. But one of the really crazy thing about this whole thing is that when I came out of the hospital, I had loss of memory. And so a lot of people I couldn't remember. And so just I had an opportunity to speak with a counselor. I was just really kind of losing my mind. I thought it was two people. I didn't know where I ended and where my husband started. It was just really, it was a horrible experience. But I was meeting with a psychologist and she told me to start writing. And it was the best advice that I could have ever received because it allowed me to really relive my life again. I started backwards because my husband had, I knew that I was a nurse. At first, I didn't know I was married. I've been married. This is my 30-year wedding anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
I've been married for a long time. Absolutely. Thank you. But I knew, my husband was telling me about who I was at this time. I'm a nurse, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mother, I'm a Christian, and I started to really think about how did I become all this? What in the world? And I really was like, I actually went back and I think I talked to you about it. I looked at my resume and I would go, I look confused. Like all of these different things that I've done. I'm a cosmetologist and I could not remember why how did I get here? Which is really, really odd. So I started doing some investigation and researching and really kind of, tuning in like, okay, why am I a nurse? Why am I a teacher? Why am I a business owner? Why do I love working with children? How did I become a Christian? And as I was going through this path, really just rediscovering who I am, I really got connected to the Lord, really orchestrated every decision, every door. He truly orchestrated every event in my life to brought me to who I am today. And so when I became very present to that, I was like, okay, I got some stuff to do. I got to stop wasting time. So yeah, so that's how I wrote my book. And so my book is about COVID, but it's also connecting different people, different circumstances, different characteristics that I have to how I became who I am. So that's why I'm grateful for the journey.
Well, I'm grateful to have you on today. I'm grateful to be able to connect with you in this way. For those people that may want to purchase your book, what is the title of the book and where can they find it?
Yes, it's on Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Nobles. It's called Grateful for the Journey, Surviving COVID-19.
Grateful for the Journey. What a great title. I love it.
Thank
Because one of the things that I teach people in my coaching program is all about the hero's journey. So you have quite the journey. What were you doing before you got sick?
What was I doing? Actually, I'm a teacher. I teach in a high school setting. And so I'm a registered nurse. And so I teach students basic introduction to the medical field. So medical terminology, anatomy and physiology, universal precautions, and things like that. And so it's a health occupations program that's inside a high school where I introduce the medical field to students. And so I always tell my students, so either I convince them that this is the route, and they can go into, be a doctor, it's not just nursing. So I introduce them to the entire health industry. So either I convince them that this is for them, or I convince them that it's not for them. Either way, I've done my job, so I just kind of, approach it that way. But I was a teacher. I'm a teacher. I teach full time.
So you are the first person that I've met that is a teacher and a nurse. I think one of the beautiful things about nursing is how many different areas and fields there are within nursing.
Absolutely.
Can you name some of them and like some of the things that you teach your students? Like, because there's so many different directions you can go with nursing. It's
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what the one thing that really, allowed me to go into that direction, because there's so many opportunities. You can be a nurse practitioner. You can be, you can work in labor and delivery. You can work at, with the fire department. You could work with the EMS service. You could be a traveling nurse. You could be a nurse educator. You can work in radiology. It's just, it's
my neighbor. I know it really is. My neighbor is a nurse supervisor for home healthcare. So I guess all of the nurses that she supervises, they all go and do personal home visits to all of their patients. And she's a supervisor for them. And I just remember thinking, wow, there's so many different areas of nursing that people just aren't even aware of.
Oh no, I wasn't aware of when I first started.
How did you go from pediatric nurse to teacher? How'd you do that?
Well, and that's one of the things, I talk about how the Lord orchestrated different things. I was in a time in my life where I had very small children and I was working 12-hour shifts, so working 12-hour shifts with small children. I have two boys, they're 3 years apart. And I just wanted to be a mom. I loved working, and I really started to evaluate what was it about nursing that I loved the most. because like you said, it's so many different directions that I could go that would not require me to work a 12-hour shift. And so I'm like, okay, do I want to do this? Do I want to work in a clinic? So then I started recognizing that I really love education. I love teaching my patients about prevention, about how to care for themselves. And and when you're a pediatric nurse, your patient is the child, of course, but it's the parents. And so I enjoy that part more than anything. And so a door opened up for one of in my community at the high school that I that's in my community. One of the teachers from the health occupation program, she was an RN and she was retiring. And I happened to be at an event where the principal for that school was there. And he was asking me, what did I do? And I said, I'm a nurse. He says, oh, we just had a position opening, for a nurse in health occupation. I go, what? I didn't even know that existed back then. I go, well, what is the requirement? And he said, well, the teacher had somebody else in mind, but you should just go ahead and apply. And I said, yeah, okay. The Lord opened that door, although they had somebody in mind for the position, and I ended up getting it. So
Hey.
23 years later, here I
am. What's the thing that you're most passionate about right now?
Oh, what I'm most passionate about is working.
Oh, you just broke up because of the wind.
All right, sorry about that.
That's better.
Is that better? If I hold my hand
better.
up here.
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
So working with what type of people?
The thing I'm most passionate about is working with young people and young adults, like high school students and young adults who have barriers that prevent them from being successful. That's where I am most passionate about. I've always been really passionate about it, but I feel like since I've had this near-death experience, I need to get more serious about my message and supporting these young people.
You have a beautiful message. I love it. Other than teaching, what is some of your other side hustles? Because I know you are an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs are into a lot of different things. You have a lot of different hats that you wear.
I do. Well, I have my own nonprofit, which is Nurturing Wellness Group Foundation. And what I do is I work with young people who have barriers that prevent them from being successful. So I've been doing that for a while. I also have a for-profit company. It's called My School Nurse, and we call it MSN. And so what I do with that is I work with schools and nonprofit organizations or organizations, churches who really don't have the knowledge to address health and wellness needs. Anytime you have students that are coming to your institutions, you are responsible for making sure you provide a safe environment. And so I work with a team of paramedics, EMTs, and we go in and we do a needs assessment for the facility to make sure that they're compliant with their state requirements as it pertains to health and wellness. But I also help them to address it by addressing, best practices and things like that to embrace those types of things. So that's something that's a little something I do.
Just a little something.
Just
What's your biggest
something.
challenge that you're facing right now?
I'm the best kept secret. I am, I'm not out there. I think I've always been behind the scenes, kind of. I'm comfortable there, but I recognize that people don't buy from people they don't know, and so I'm starting to put myself out there a little bit. I'm kind of an introvert, really kind of shy, actually. I tell that to people, and they're like, "What?" But yeah, so I think that I'm the best kept secret because I know that the young people that we've supported and the schools that we've supported, we've been able to really make a big difference. And so
you can take your hand off because yeah, I'll tell you if the wind starts kicking up again. One of my mentors is Pete Vargas, and he says that your message matters. So you have a very important message, and we definitely need you to get out there and start talking to more schools, you know. Do you have any plans to be famous, or do you want to stay behind the scenes?
You know, if you would have asked me that question like last year, I'd like, oh, are you kidding? I'm definitely gonna stay behind the scenes. But I am just so bursting, with energy. I'm like, I gotta get this out here. So famous, I don't know. I connect being famous to being, people, Googling over me or, having a paparazzi and all of that stuff. So I don't want that. But I do want to be, have that name recognition that people know that, okay, that's the lady who took her life and changed it and did something with her life. I want to be recognized with, within school systems that, connecting health and wellness to education, so I guess that's my definition of famous.
So there's a fine line between bragging, about like how great I am and building your brand and telling your journey in a way that inspires people. How do you do it without saying, look how great I am? Because you have a lot of life experience and you've done a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because when I teach my programs that I teach for young people, I always start with an overview of my credentials. I'm a legal nurse consultant, I'm an RN, I have my bachelor's degree, I have my master's degree. And so I start there purposely. And then I let them know where I came from. When I graduated from high school, I couldn't read.
Wow.
And so I had a learning disability. And so, of course, back then, they put the students through vocational programs because they want them to be able to, take care of themselves. So I went through cosmetology. And so that was the expectation for my life, is they wanted me to, be a cosmetologist. They just kind of wrote me off as, okay, we got her skilled and she's ready to go. But so I couldn't read. And with that was a lot of low self-esteem. I thought I was ugly. I walked around like this, and so I definitely was not, in my mind, I did not look like, sound like, there was no way that I could be a nurse, right? And so my father was sick. He had cancer and he was on hospice, and he came home, to stay with my mom, during this transition from the hospital. And I was able to care for him. And he looked at me one day and he said, you know what? You should be a nurse. And I actually thought he was joking, or I thought he thought I was my other sister. And I'm thinking, Dad, this is me. This is Terri. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is the dumb one. I can't read. Why are you playing? And he was like, no, you should be a nurse. And I thought back then, I was like, that was the first time that I saw myself as achieving a goal. And I was like, I can be a nurse, and then I thought about, when you think about it, I was where I was and where this opportunity or this vision became really real to me was miles apart, right? It's like, okay, nurses to me at that point were smart, they were pretty, they were, well respected. People, they spoke with confidence, and I was the opposite of that. And I was like, okay, here I am right here. This is my reality. That's where I want to go. Okay, what do I need to do to get there? And so that's sort of how I approach it, without bragging, because I can't brag. I had, I worked hard, to be where I am. It did not come easy. I went to college. I studied like it was a job, so yeah, that's the approach I take.
That's beautiful. That is a really incredible story. One of Another one of my mentors, Les Brown, says that he grew up being called the dumb twin. So you made me think of that as soon as you said that. And he says, don't let anyone else's opinion of you become your reality. And you overcame that huge obstacle. And I just want to give you your props because you are a hero and an inspiration to many, 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 many young people, young and older people who think that, their story, this is what it is. And you're living proof that you can change your story at any moment in time, especially when you're young. It's even easier when you're young.
Yeah, tell me about it.
On another topic, what should I ask you about that only a small circle of your friends know about you?
Ooh. Well, many people do not know that I consider myself an artist. I love to draw, and I used to could sing. And I say used to because I had thyroid cancer, and so it kind of made some issues. But I love to draw and paint. So yeah, not many people know that about me.
All right, now the whole world does.
Don't ask me to sing though.
Who's some of your heroes? Like if you could have a conversation with dead or alive, top 5 greatest of all time, who are your heroes that you would love to have a conversation or mastermind with?
Wow. I read that on your thing. I'm kind of struggling with that. I'll tell you one hero that really got me through, and that was Helen Keller. I know that's a little odd, but when I was, deciding that I wanted to go back to college, and I, made that recognition, I'm like, okay, I'm here. I need to get an education and learn how to read and things like that. And Helen Keller, one of my teachers, my special ed teacher, introduced me to Helen Keller's story when I was 18. And it just amazed me that a woman, she couldn't hear, she couldn't see, and she was able to become an activist, a scholar. And I'm like, oh my God, she can't see or hear, and it's like, how in the world? And so I really resonated. Anytime I got down on myself, I connected to, you know what, I can see and I can hear. I can use those senses to overcome. So that was one of the, definitely one that has, that I, one person I thought about a lot.
You'd love to have a conversation with her.
Absolutely. I would love to have a conversation with her. And of course, Jesus. I got a lot of questions to ask. I had a whole lot of questions. Yeah, I would love to have a conversation with her. Absolutely.
Who else? Anybody else?
Oh my gosh.
I'll give you some of mine.
Okay.
So if I could sit them down at a round table,
okay,
I would have Dwayne Rock Johnson. I would have Kevin Hart because I love his hustle.
Okay.
I would have Oprah Winfrey at the table.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she would be there.
I would have Bruce Lee sitting at the table.
Bruce Lee.
Yep, and Helio Gracie. He's the father of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So okay. I would have that's just 5. I really have like a group of 12. Right. And I got this idea from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
So a lot of people read it, but they don't do the things that he says inside the book. Mm-hmm. So like I just took down a piece of paper once and I was like, all right, who would be my imaginary counsel if I could get them in a room? And then I wrote down like some of the traits that I would like to emulate or ask them about, Right. That's the beauty of being on this side of the podcast, being an interviewer, like I get to ask you things that I want to know about, right, and what I specifically want to know about is everything that I ask every single one of my guests. Uh-huh. If you could give yourself advice when you were 18 years old, what type of advice would you give that young girl?
So many things. Like
No,
I
you only
said,
get three pieces though.
3.
Three.
Oh my goodness.
You gotta give that young lady
Um,
3 pieces of advice, 3 of your best pieces. What are you gonna tell her?
you can do anything you wish. That would be one. I would also tell myself to dream, because I stopped dreaming when I had graduated from high school, until after it's about to rain, until after I, spoke with my dad. I
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
break.
you want to go inside? Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's raining.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, I'm
Like I
sorry.
said, like I said, I got a great audio engineer.
All right.
We'll bookmark this part right here. He knows when to cut it. So
All right.
we'll cut this out.
All right. I'm like, okay, my computer is going to get wet. So, I tell you, I have no control over this environment I'm in, which is horrible.
So I don't know if you follow me on Instagram today, but one of the things I grew up on was the Serenity Prayer. And
Yes.
I always think about the things I can control and the things I can't control. And, I pray for the difference, the wisdom to know the difference.
Absolutely.
And right now, the reason why I'm shining is because I know which kinds of things I can control. I know I can get podcast guests, and I know that I can get speaking engagements. I know that, some of those things are within my control. I know I can start a YouTube channel.
Right.
I know I can do these things. I can write my next book.
It's a blessing. And that's funny you say that, because I always speak with my students about, especially when you're talking about when they focus on the things that they don't have any control over.
That's what makes you depressed.
How do you, right? It's like the things that you don't have control over, that's the things that, we sometimes focus on. And so I always tell my students, like, how long are you going to give that energy? You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you can't do anything about it, so why are you worried about it?
That's right. It's timeless. It's timeless advice.
Absolutely. All right.
All
I
right.
apologize.
It's no problem at all. One time I had to take like a 5-minute break. My guy, he just cuts all that out. He's a really great audio engineer. Shout out to Dave.
Hey,
I know Dave's gonna hear this. So
do you hear music in the background, or is it okay?
it's very, very, very faint, and like I said, Dave can cut all of that out. He can focus in on your voice. So let's start over. What 3 pieces of advice? You only have 3 pieces of advice that you can give to your 18-year-old self. What was the first one?
Okay, my first advice would be to dream.
To dream.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that, realities or your direction comes from dreaming. If you can't dream, if you don't look at possibilities, then you don't take a step forward. And I think that that's what my father gave me. It started with him planting that seed of me just dreaming about being somebody that I wasn't at that point. So I wish I would have embraced those opportunities or that mindset of being able to dream. So that's one of the things I would tell myself. The second thing I would say is for me to, that I could be anything that I want, that I'm not limited to my abilities, so the fact that I couldn't read does not define who I am. That's absolutely, I would tell myself that. And the last, I think I would say, is to give people a chance. I was so hard on people because I had a learning disability. I was bullied a lot. And I really did not trust people. And so I believe now, and I think I write about this in the book, how I'm so surprised at how many people, how many friends I have, and how many people that prayed for me when I was sick. Like, I'm like 54 years old. And it's like, now I'm just like, oh my God, I had so many people. How much time did I waste not trusting people and not allowing them to come into my life? So those would be the three things.
That's a nice three. I like it. I like it. If money wasn't an equation, what would you spend your time doing?
Traveling.
You would spend your time traveling. So if
Yeah.
money's not in the equation,
Mm-hmm.
how often would you travel?
All the time. I would travel and work. I work at best when I'm traveling. So I do, coaching with young people while I'm at a hotel, like wonderful places like this.
So I just wanted to say, I'm a big advocate of starting a coaching business because you can do it from anywhere. Absolutely. And you can travel and you can just hop on a Zoom call or hop on a phone call and you can continue your coaching business from anywhere in the world. So if you have aspirations or dreams of traveling, start a coaching business now and build your clientele, and eventually you'll just be traveling all the time, helping people from anywhere in the world that has Wi-Fi. It's a beautiful thing.
Actually, I do coaching through the Nurturing Wellness Group Foundation. It's more of a structural class coaching, type of approach. So yeah, absolutely.
How long is that coaching program?
We have a 7-module program where we work with a student in a virtual classroom type of setting. We go through different modules. And so it can be adjusted where it's a week or twice a week, so I kind of work around the student's schedule. So yes, but I can work from home or, as long as I have a Wi-Fi.
As long as you got Wi-Fi, it's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. If you had Jeff Bezos' money, so once again, assuming that all of your family is taken care of, what would you spend that money on?
My heart is really heavy for homeless people, and I truly believe that a lot of our homeless population, they have mental health issues.
That's 99% of them.
Absolutely. And so, our current medical system doesn't support our mental health as much as as it should. So I would definitely put my money towards supporting our homeless and getting them some mental health support. Absolutely.
That's a good cause. Have you ever had any great interactions with any cops or firemen that you can recall?
I was reading that. My mom has, and of course, my mother is aging in her 80s, and we've had to, call EMS several times for her being sick, or like when my father was sick. So I just I cannot even imagine not having access. You know what I'm saying? It's like when your family or loved one is sick, and you can pick up a phone and call someone and they can come and help. I don't take that for granted.
Neither do I. Anytime I was out on a call, that used to be in patrol, a street cop. So anytime I was out, I was always super grateful when the volunteer EMS workers showed up and they just took over the scene. I just, I'd take a step back and I'd be like, thank you guys for doing everything that you do. I was always super, super grateful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't think about it until you don't have that. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can make a phone call and help us on its way. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the best compliment you've ever received? Probably from one of your students.
Oh, absolutely. You saved my life. That, and just thank you. I get so many cards, or I get phone calls. Graduation season, just, we're upon the graduation season. and I get these text messages, Ms. Brinston, I just graduated from nursing school, or I just started medical school, or yeah, just thank you. And you've changed my life. You saved my life. Yeah.
That's beautiful. What's your next project? Like, what are you working on next?
Oh,
There's always something in the queue.
Absolutely. When I wrote the book, Grateful for the Journey, Surviving COVID-19, I really didn't write it for people to read it. You know?
You wrote it for yourself.
I wrote it for myself because I was trying to remember. And so my husband talked me into, getting it published and getting it out there. But I talk about also in my book, I talk about how I used the concepts that I teach through the Nurturing Wellness Group Foundation. We call it Life Support for Students, or Young Adult Support System is the program that I teach. But it's the concepts that I discovered when I was a young woman with low self-esteem and couldn't read. I saw myself at this particular starting line. And then I created an intention for where I wanted to go in my life. And so that journey was how I overcame, my learning disability and became a nurse. And so I really embraced the same journey as I was going through the healing process of, from COVID. Had a hard time walking, my memory. And, I could have easily just sat down and just because it was just so hard, just walking down the stairs, or it was horrible. But I embraced those same concepts. Okay, this is where I am. This is my reality. And this is where I want to go. And recognizing the fact that there's obstacles. And so you asked the question, what do I want to do? I want to help young people who have barriers. And I recognize barriers as being learning disabilities, low self-esteem, incarcerated family members, connected to some type of abuse. Anything that is blocking you from where you want to go. I talk about, how they train elephants. They have the little rope next to the wooden stake. And when the elephant is young, he can't get away. So he doesn't, he struggles, but he can't. But as he grows, he forgets that he has grown out of that, but he's still stuck, And so my desire is to work with young people and young adults who have the barriers that prevent them from being successful, and help them to overcome those barriers so that they can truly walk out their purpose. Because if I never would have walked out my purpose, I have helped thousands. I was doing the math, 23 years of education. I actually started putting this curriculum together when I taught, at teaching as a student, as a high school teacher, because my students couldn't embrace the concepts, because they had less self-limiting beliefs. I can never be a doctor. My father is in jail. Or, I can never be a nurse. Don't you know where I came from? And so we had to get rid of those, self-limiting beliefs, or those, stigma. Oh, I have diabetes. And, I have this, I have that, I have ADHD. I had to get rid of that. And so that's how I started the program, really helping my students to get over all the garbage, put those things down so that they can say, okay, here's where I am. That's where I want to be. Let's put some things in place in order to get you there. And so moving forward, that's what I want to do. I use those concepts in my book. I talk about the Nurturing Wellness Group Foundation and how I truly believe that, it is my calling to help these young people get where they need to be.
I love your mission. I love where you're going with it. And I'm going to figure out a way to help you grow in your mission. I'm going to figure out a way. How can my audience use that to help themselves? Because you're obviously driven. So there are other people out there who are feeling burnt out in their job right now. You've said it multiple times now. just it comes down to really figuring out where you want to go, right?
Mhm.
But what if you don't know? Like, I think sometimes people think like their current job is all there is for them right now, and they don't know necessarily how to get to that next place. They know that they may know that they want to get to another place, and some of them don't even know that there is another place beyond what they're currently doing. You've had a lot of different jobs. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. Like your experience, it speaks for itself. You know, you come from a place of heart. You know.
Mhm. Well, what I would say is to recognize that a job is something you do. It's not who you are. And so I don't coach my students in getting the best job for you. I coach my students in getting the best life. You
Mm,
know, what is it that you want out of life? What kind of lifestyle do you want? What type of freedoms do you want? You know, what makes you happy, you know, and feel excited about getting up every day. So that's where I kind of back into it. Like, what do you not want? Because if you ask somebody like, what do you not like? Oh, blah, 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 blah. You know, they can ramble off a million things. So I say, okay, what do you not want? And then, you know, really write down what that is. And a lot of times, you know, the people that I work with, they get very present to the fact I'm doing everything I don't want. So it's like, okay, what do you need to do to change that? If I'm making $15 an hour and that's not the lifestyle, that's not going to give me the lifestyle, then you're doing the wrong thing, right? And so I hope that your audience will evaluate what is it that you don't want out of your life? What do you don't want? And not recognize that what you want is not what you do. Your job is something you do. You know, I think I'm so, you know, at first I used to think, oh my God, I need to settle on something. You know, what do I did? But I recognize that when I stop wanting what I do, I just change it.
that's
You know what I'm
beautiful.
saying?
Yeah,
I'm not happy doing this anymore. Let me do something else. So I guess I'm really not, it's not that I'm confused. It's just that I just chase my happiness.
that's a beautiful thing, and you're gonna inspire so many people. Um, I'm so grateful to have had you on the show. We're gonna wrap up with these last final 5 questions.
Okay.
These are just for fun,
Okay.
but I'm sure people have called you their hero before. What does being a hero mean to you? What's your
Oh,
definition of a hero?
you know what? It's so odd that you asked me that because I never really look at myself as being a hero.
You are.
Um, I'm like, I love your show and I saw your title and I actually passed by it because I was like, oh, I didn't see myself as that hero. But um, oh man. Okay, what's your question again?
I'm gonna make it really simple. Terry, you have a
Okay.
beautiful soul. That's first of all, okay? First of all, you have a beautiful soul inside and outside, and you are shining right now. Like I just love your mission. You are a hero to a lot of people, including myself. That's why I wanted to have you on the show. What is your definition of a hero?
Okay, so if I'm a hero, so I got to get connected to that. I guess my definition is being available.
Being available.
Just
Period.
being
That's it.
available.
That's it.
Yeah, just
That's it.
just be available.
Your
You know.
definition is your truth. It doesn't matter
Mhm,
what other people think it is. I like your definition.
mhm,
Um, how do you show your self-love? You know, like when your stress is at its highest
mhm.
and you're at your lowest point and you're starting to reach your breaking point, how do you save yourself? How do you show yourself love?
I pray
You
and
pray.
meditate and work out. Um, yeah, absolutely. Just pray. One of the things that gets me, you know, that really humbles me is just listening to music
Mm,
and a lot of Christian music that has very meaningful spiritual connections. Yeah, listening to music and praying, definitely.
Would you ever consider coaching other nurses to do what you do now?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think I so I do coach. I have coached nursing students to help them to pass their NCLEX exam.
Mm-hmm.
Just by, it's not so much, I give them different. I had a learning disability, so I learn differently, right? So
Yep.
I have to see it, and so I do help nursing students who need a different angle, a different way of thinking of things. So I do that, but I also help them with their self-limiting beliefs that they take into it as well. So absolutely, I would
That's
love to be able
beautiful.
to do that more.
That's beautiful. What's your best ability? What's your best strength? We'll call it your power today.
Um, I think that I am a realist, but I have attention to detail. Like I have a way of looking at this. I coach and I also consult with different organizations. Like right now, I'm consulting with a nonprofit who is struggling with making sure that they're walking out their mission. So I think I have a way of simplifying and looking at situations and just kind of bringing them down to earth so that everybody can recognize that, okay, what are we trying to do? And where are we trying to go? And what are the things we need to do to get us there? So I think I have my mind is organized, I guess.
I love it. And my last and final question,
Okay.
just for fun, if you had a comic superpower, what would it be and why?
A comic superpower. Oh my God. Time travel.
Time travel.
Yes, absolutely. Time
Now,
travel. Where would I go?
where would you go, and why time travel? Like what kind of things? Because messing with time, it can be tricky. Like if you go back, who knows if you would have been on the same journey if you changed the slightest little things.
Who said I wanted to go back?
Oh. Oh, okay.
I want to go forward.
All
Yeah,
right. I love it.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love it.
Yeah.
I consider myself a futurist. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I thought that you would go back right away. I didn't even think about forward because I do want to live another 100 years just to
Yeah.
see what comes about.
Oh,
Like we're so
absolutely.
close to being on a 2-planet species. We're so close to
Mhm.
being on Mars. And then I want to see the the landing pad on the moon.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want to see all of these things. Like
Right.
you and I, we grew up with a what's that phone that you click
Oh,
it and
rotary. A
rotary.
rotary
Yeah,
phone.
yeah. So we grew up with a rotary phone where you stick your
Uh-huh.
finger in and it goes click
Right.
click 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 click
And
click.
phone
Now
booths.
and phone booths and
Right.
now kids they don't even know
They
what
have
those
no
things are.
idea.
They have
You
no
know,
idea.
I think about my father often. He was an electrician. And he was I just think about, just the technology that we have now that he was not able to see, like, like you said, the cell phone and just different lighting and FaceTime.
FaceTime. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could like just share that with him. And so that's how I think about like, what is it gonna look like in healthcare, 10, 20 years from now? Anyway, so yeah, absolutely. Time
there's
travel forward.
certain there's certain careers like
Mhm,
nursing,
mhm.
uh, policing, fire EMS. There's certain careers that they're never ever going to completely be eliminated by technology because you need the human element.
Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, not in our
Right,
lifetimes.
right,
Not.
right.
I don't think in
Absolutely.
the next 50 years any robots are replacing the bedside nurse,
Right.
or the fireman. But I have seen drones that can fly up and spray
Mhm.
water.
Right.
You know, but you're still going to need operators. So it's going to reduce the number of firemen you need, but you're still going to need firemen to make certain decisions, you know?
Right. Well, I do. My husband, this is, my husband always talk about me when I say this. When I go to like the supermarket, I never go to the self-check. Like I always go to the teller because I'm like, okay, you're putting somebody out of a job. These are like minimum wage jobs. This is what they need anyway. So
I'm the same way. I actually get annoyed because I'm like, they expect me to bag my own groceries. And when I go to gas stations, I go to full serve gas stations because I'm like, they expect me to pump my own gas. I
they have
remember,
full service gas stations?
yeah, they're few and far between.
Okay.
But I remember a time when there was only full serve gas stations.
Okay.
I remember a time when there was no self checkout lines. So now I'm a little slow to some of those changes. So it's like, like I get a little annoyed. I'm like, for me, it's indignation. I'm like, I'm not doing it.
We pay people to do that.
Yeah, we pay people to do that. I'm not doing it. It's been fun, Terri, and I really appreciate talking with you. You have a great mission and you are a hero. Thank you for everything that you do and all of the young people that you're affecting. It's a beautiful thing. And I want you to have a very blessed day and enjoy the rest of your day. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Just recognizing, I don't think that people who are in the healthcare, they don't look at themselves as heroes, so if you put in that title, it kind of made me feel special today. A little uncomfortable, but special. But thank you so much for what you do.
Always move towards that uncomfortable feeling. I was I was on the other side of an interview recently, and I felt a little uncomfortable. I was like, man, I'm going to be on the spot. I'm going to have to come up with answers on the fly.
Right.
And I felt a little uncomfortable, but I try to keep moving forward towards those things because everywhere where you feel uncomfortable, that's where the growth happens.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very, very
so
much.